I have to keep readjusting because I keep getting glare on my glasses, so let's hope this is a good glare-free position. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today is going to be my spoiler-free review of The Silent Songbird by Melanie Dickerson. The Silent Songbird is the seventh and I believe the final book in the Hagenheim fairy tale retellings by Melanie Dickerson. This book is her Little Mermaid retelling. I was given a link by Melanie Dickerson to get the NetGalley e-arc, so I was able to read that advance and give you guys a review. So these are all my own opinions and thoughts. The Silent Songbird takes us right back to England and right back to the happily ever after of the merchant's daughter. Evangeline is the ward and cousin of King Richard II and dreams of a life outside of her castle where she is free to marry for love instead of politics. She is unfortunately betrothed to one of the king's closest advisors, who is a man twice her age and not the chivalrous knight you would like to marry. Evangeline decides to escape and run away so she doesn't have to marry him. She escapes with a group of traveling men who have come to her castle. She disguises herself as being mute because her singing voice is something that is quite well known, along with her bright red hair. She escapes by joining a group of servants led by Wesley Lewis. I believe I'm saying the last name right, probably not. But she escapes and joins their groups and finds her way back to his home and becomes a servant to disguise herself. Wesley is intrigued by the beautiful new servant girl and is very upset over the fact that she lost her voice by being beaten by her former master, or so he's been told. Getting drawn closer and closer to him, he is then crushed when he learns that he has been deceived. But a bigger plot lurks in the background as there's more threat to the throne than to Wesley's heart. As many of you probably know by now, I'm a huge fan of Melanie Dickerson's books. I really wish these were around when I was younger. These would have been perfect books for me. I always sought out after historical, romantic, medieval type reads, but unfortunately a lot of those that were geared towards my age were full of content that wasn't geared towards my age, or I ended up reading above my age level and finding out content that wasn't meant for me. So it's really nice to finally find some good YA medieval romance that isn't light, fluffy, and all perfect and whatnot, but has a good heart and a great story to it, and would have been appropriate for young Angela. These books were my heart's cry when I was a young adult, and I'm so excited to finally have them as an adult and still really thoroughly enjoy them. Also, what many of you will probably know by now is I am on the hunt for a really good Little Mermaid retelling. I love The Little Mermaid. It's one of my favorite Disney movies. I haven't really read fully the original Hans Christian Andersen story, but because of my love for the Disney movie, I'm always on the hunt for a good, strong Little Mermaid retelling. I've been disappointed time and time again. There's always one that comes really close but doesn't quite hit the mark for me. The Silent Songbird is Melanie Dickerson's Little Mermaid retelling, and it is one I can live with. I really enjoyed Evangeline as a character. She has this childlike wonder when she leaves the castle because she was never allowed to leave. She couldn't leave without guards following her, or she could only leave for a certain amount of time to go riding or hunting or whatever royal people did at that point. So she always felt very trapped and very confined. So when she finally gets out and gets to explore, even seeing something like a butterfly flying around in nature was just something that awed and inspired her, which was very reminiscent of what the Little Mermaid would have felt coming out of the ocean and into our world. Melanie Dickerson is really good at writing a strong female character, and I don't just mean a strong female character who can probably hold her own in a fight, but a strong woman of character, integrity, and faith, as well as an ability to not just be pushed around and to stand up and fight as well. Evangeline has a strong faith and a strong character. She feels the deepening remorse and guilt of lying to these people and lying that she is mute. So the guilt and the burden of this lying to people just eats and eats in her until she has this really good moment where she just kind of gives it all to God. And I like seeing how her faith continues to grow throughout this and isn't just stays stagnant. Evangeline is also someone who is a really good judge of character. Now, she doesn't just judge people from what she sees. She puts two and two together and really looks at the heart of a person and who they really are rather than what they show people and the facade they put on the outside. Overall, Evangeline's character was somebody I really enjoyed. She was very endearing. She was very hardworking for someone who's never worked a day in her life. She never complained even when her hands were pretty much bleeding raw and blistered. She just kept going because she wanted this freedom and she wanted to do something for herself. Wesley was another character that I really enjoyed reading, and I really like how you could see how his parents, Randolph and Annabelle from The Merchant's Daughter, would have raised him, because you really see their integrity, their faith, and their character kind of put together in this one character. And I really liked seeing Wesley as a product of his parents, and I really enjoyed seeing that because you don't really get a lot of family dynamics where you can actually tell that these next characters were raised by the previous characters, and I really liked that, and you could definitely see that in Wesley. He was kind, he was gentle, he was strong, he was brave, and he really trusted people, which a lot of people would have called naive, but he wanted to give people the benefit of the doubt and believe a good in them first rather than the bad. At first with their relationship, I thought it was a little too insta-lovey, as Evangeline was kind of instantly falling for him, but after you really read it and really get to know them and the flow of the story, you kind of see how that would have happened for someone who has been so locked away and kind of dreaming of what it would have been like to be somebody who is a peasant or to have the freedom to fall in love and marry on their own. And she would have had those different expectations and those hopes and those dreams that kind of carried with her when she escaped her cloistered prison. At first it kind of bothered me, but then I really thought about it. Ariel fell in love with the first human she met because that was her idea of what that world was like, and that was what she wanted, and that is kind of what she was kind of hoping for, that someone from that world would fall in love with her. So you kind of saw the resemblance of that Little Mermaid story of just kind of meeting the first lower born, I mean, he wasn't low born, but lower born than her person, and Ariel meeting the first humans. And you kind of get that fairy tale feeling, but then as the story progresses, both of them realize, hey, I know nothing about this person. I need to guard my heart against this in case this doesn't work out. So you have that understanding of, let's take this a little bit slower. So it was kind of insta-lovey at the beginning, but then there was kind of a halt. Let's take this easy. I need to watch this. And then there was a slower progression of getting to know each other throughout the rest of the book. What I also like about Melanie Dickerson stories is that they're not just the fairy tale romance lovey-dovey. There's always a deeper plot and a deeper sinister plan in the background of each story. Now, that happens in each book, and people might find this repetitive, but you don't just want your typical fairy tale romances, you also want action and adventure in them, and Melanie gives you both the action, the adventure, and the fairy tale elements and the romance to it. So there is a deeper plot kind of lurking beneath the surface, and it was really well fleshed out, it was really well drawn out, and it was really well wrapped up in the end. Now, the endings typically do wrap up really well in Melanie Dickerson's books. They wrap up very conveniently and very cleanly, but that's the essence of the happily ever after. I have no complaints about that. I have enjoyed every book that she has written that has that kind of a plot theme in there, and each book has very well followed up the next book afterwards. So the continuation of that story carries on very well, even though the previous book wraps up really well. And I've mentioned this before, but starting from her debut novel, The Healer's Apprentice, and then reading her newer stuff like The Golden Braid and The Silent Songbird, you really start to see the progression and the strength of an author and their voice in their writing. And I really liked reading from start to finish of the Hagenham fairy tale retelling and seeing that growth in characters and writing in Melanie's writer's voice as well. So that's something with Melanie's writing style that really appeals to me, and that's why I continue to read not only her Hagenham fairy tale retellings or her other fairy tale retellings, but plays into her Regency Spies of London series as well. Her writing just kind of flows very nicely together as each book flows into the next book, and the growth of each writing flows up into the next book as well. Overall, I gave The Silent Songbird a 4-star rating. It was a very strong favorite of mine. It wasn't the most favorite of mine, unfortunately. But for the verdict of if I thought this was a great Little Mermaid retelling or not, it strongly passed. It had very strong elements of leaving one world and entering another. It had that romance. I loved the fact that she had the flaming red hair as an element of the Little Mermaid from the movie. I also love the fact that she loses her voice, and the way that that's brought about is actually very believable and realistic, but still had that strong fairy tale element to it. And then regaining her voice, and then all of that happens after that. So I really enjoyed it as a Little Mermaid retelling and gave it a solid thumbs up as a Little Mermaid retelling. The Silent Songbird is our Coffee Chapters and Christian YA book club pick for November. It is out tomorrow, November 8th, so go pick up your copy and read along with Melanie and I. Melanie Kilsby from Christian YA Books and More. So read along with Melanie and I and join us in the discussion groups as well. Now, we announced at the end of our live show that the live show for the Silent Songbird is going to be November 28th at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please come join us for that. And we've also announced that we are going to have another special guest for you guys. Melanie Dickerson, the author of The Silent Songbird, is going to be joining us for the live show. So you can come chat with Melanie about what you thought of the Hagenham fairy tale retellings, bring some questions, and join us in a discussion that is sure to be a lot of fun. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Hey everybody, I just want to let you know before we go here that I will not be posting a video this Friday, November 11th, as per my usual schedule. November 11th is Remembrance Day here in Canada, where we remember the lives and the service of the men and women who fight and serve in our armed forces. Remembrance Day has always been very important to my family. My grandpa is a World War II vet and was in probably one of the first waves on Juno Beach on D-Day. Further inland, him and his group, though, were captured, and he spent the rest of the war as a POW. Thankfully, he made it back when many didn't. So this Remembrance Day, take time to remember and be thankful for the men and women who have served and who continue to serve our country.